Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to the Online Course Podcast, the place where online course creators go to sell more of their online courses. I'm super excited because we have an absolute rock star with us this week. A little bit about this person. She helps course creators and coaches automate their list growth. She does that so they can attract a steady stream of targeted clients for their courses and programs. And she does this via Pinterest. She's an absolute Pinterest marketing specialist for online course creators and coaches. So without further ado, let me introduce the one and only Ms. Jana Roe Osofsky from Jana O Media. Jana, how are you?
Hi. Wow, that's quite the introduction.
Oh, hey, I just
I'm
read it
doing
straight off your website, you know?
I love it.
I was like, it's going to be easier than going back and
But
forth.
yeah, but it has all that energy behind it, that Jano energy.
Oh, yeah, that was the best part, right? Not so much the words, it was the energy, yeah?
Totally. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for being on. Jana, I like to start all my podcasts off with a quote or mantra that inspires you or fires you up. Have you got one for
Yes,
us?
I do. And I always get it wrong, so I'm going to read it because I always mix up the two words that are the key words there. But I love the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. And
Yes.
James says that it is your commitment to the process that will determine your progress. Say that 5 times fast. But I love that. I love that quote because first of all, I believe it's very true and I live it. And it has a lot to do. I think it really influences how I approach things both in my personal life and with business too. So I love it.
Yes, love that quote myself. And I'm also a
Yeah.
huge fan of that book. Do you want to give it another shout out
Yeah.
in case any of the listeners haven't read that? It's probably like the
Sure.
number one book to read for entrepreneurs, right?
Could be. Yeah. It's Atomic Habits by James Clear. And it's all about the small, habits, the little things that you do that add up to the big results. So it's a great book. I love it.
Yes, me too.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jana, my plan for today's podcast, we're going to get deep into Pinterest, right? Why we should use it, how to use it, why it's good. But before we get
Okay.
into that, I'd love to hear a little bit about you, and my listeners would as well. So can you let us know what is it you do? Why do you do it? How did you get into it? Why should we listen to
Yeah.
you? Give us the quick 101 there. Not quick 101,
Yeah.
sorry. You can take as long as you like.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. So I got my start in online business I've been saying 3 years now for close to a year. So it's probably about 4 years. And I had worked, in kind of a typical corporate type of situation. I got a degree in marketing and then ended up working in human resources in Boston. And when I moved to South Florida, which is where I live now, I was actually I made a career change. Essentially, I didn't really want to work in human resources anymore. And so I started using my marketing degree again. And I worked for my family's business for a little while. And then in a desire to really want to be location independent, I decided to start a business that was going to allow me to do marketing of some kind. I knew, and probably writing and creating, but to do it from my laptop and to do it at any time and from anywhere. And when I think back on that burning desire that I had, and I think about what life is like now, it's really cool because I really have achieved that. So it's exciting. So I started as a virtual assistant because I figured, you know what, I'm going to just get my toe in and learn about online business. And it was the perfect fit for me in the beginning. And one of my first clients who was in the online space was a course creator who is also a brand strategist. So she was a brand strategist first, still does one-to-one work, but also created courses at some point in her journey, and does some coaching too. So she really falls into kind of like all three of the categories of the people that I love to help. And so through her, excuse that little ping, through her, my work for her and my work supporting her, and by the way, I still support her 4 years later because she's amazing and I love everything she does and touches, but she's my only retainer client now. But through my work for her, I discovered, I learned first of all about this whole online business and the general area of self-improvement and coaching.
Mm.
And I also learned from a more tactical approach all about lead generation and, bringing people in, cold traffic, warm traffic, social media, funnels, all these things. And one of the things that I learned when I was working with her in the beginning was I learned that her main source of lead generation, the main source of traffic to her website, the main source of traffic to her lead magnets, and the main way she was growing her email list and still does today was through Pinterest marketing. And that was eye-opening to me, of course, because like some of your listeners, it might
Like
be,
me.
in this situation now. Okay. I was at that point where I still thought of Pinterest as a place where you would go to get recipes and home decor ideas. And it
Wedding
still is. And I
dresses.
still, yeah, totally. I was going to say I love it for all that, but I don't really, not for wedding dresses. I don't believe in weddings, but, or I don't believe in like big weddings, but I definitely believe in recipes and home decor. So I just really made that shift when I saw what was going on in her business. And like I said, still to this day, it remains her biggest lead generator, her biggest source of traffic, and it makes her money. And to me, that is just amazing that this platform that we love for inspiration and ideas can make people money as well. So I just really fell in love with that idea. I dug in and learned all the Pinterest things. I took some courses. I did a lot of experimentation on my own account, on her account, with other clients that I brought in as well. And then flash forward, now 4 years later, I've set up strategic Pinterest profiles that drive traffic and make people money for coaches and course creators. I've done probably maybe 2 or 3 dozen of those, probably closer to 3 dozen. And in addition to that, I've created my course that teaches people how to, teaches people all the methods that I've developed that specifically work for the coaches and the course creators in particular, because different things work for course creators and coaches than do work for food bloggers or Etsy sellers, because those people do really well on Pinterest as well, but those aren't my people. The things that I've learned and the way that I like Pinterest to work is, specific methods that I've developed that work for us, the coaches and the course creators. So
Yes.
yeah, so that's kind of like my Genesis story, I guess, if you will.
Yes.
Yeah. And so that brings me up to today. And so that's where I am.
Awesome. And I want to give you a quick shout out here as well, Jana. Jana runs all sorts of courses, and she's got resources and masterclasses and checklists. We'll run through them a bit later, but even now I'll put all those in the show notes. So even here, if you're sold, you're like, I need to learn about Pinterest, just go to the show notes and you'll see everything there. Cool. So let's talk a little bit about Pinterest in general here, Jana. Now, I'm probably a good example. I don't use it. I've got the app on my phone. I've had it there for probably 10 years, maybe 5-10 years. And I always think, one day I'll start using this app, and I never use it. So I'm probably a good example. I'm going to ask you the question. Why would I use it for lead generation? Why is it different to a Facebook or an Instagram or a LinkedIn? What advantages has it got? What can you tell me Pinterest in general?
Yeah. Okay. So when you say that you don't use it, you have the app on your phone, but you don't use it. Do you mean that you don't use it as a user? Like, you don't look on it for any ideas or inspiration, or you don't use it for business, or both?
Okay. So 0 for business.
For both. Okay.
Yep. And I'll maybe once a year, I'll log on there and just see what's on my feed. And I logged on just before. I'm like, if I'm interviewing a Pinterest expert, I better jump on and have a look. So I have a scroll, and then I don't do anything with it. So let's say 0 for both. Let's say 0.
Okay. That was very responsible of you to do. Okay. So first of all, one thing to know is that Pinterest is a very fast growing platform. So probably about 1.5 years ago, there was an announcement that they were up to 250 million users, and then it was up to 300 million users, and then 350 like 6 months later. And then recently, and we're recording this for anyone who's listening later on during the middle of, or who knows if it's the middle of, but during the 2020 coronavirus pandemic. So in March of 2020, when everyone kind of went on lockdown in various places in the world and whatnot, Pinterest actually started announcing that they were up to like 390 users, which is really pretty amazing in terms of the fast platform growth. And some of it has to do with what's going on in the world, and some of it is just because it's an amazing, fun platform to be on. And it actually, in 2019, at some point, it surpassed Snapchat. I was going to say it surpassed Snapchat. I speak very quickly sometimes. In terms of so now it's the third. When it surpassed Snapchat, it became the third largest visibility or online platform in the world. So that was pretty amazing as well. So it's growing quickly, and it is a place where people go for inspiration and ideas. It's still mostly women. It's still about 70% women, but about 40% of new users, new signups for new accounts as users are men. So that is shifting a little bit.
That's because they know the women are on there, right? Tell any guy, hey, 70% of this is women, and then they'll go in there and ruin it, you know?
Right.
Well, not ruin it,
Oh,
but they'll go in there
no. Well, here's the thing. It's interesting that you say that, because the main thing that coaches and course creators need to do in order to be able to think about marketing on Pinterest is to make this shift in their mindset, if you will. I think I can say that because most coaches and course creators love that word. In their thinking, let's just say a shift in their thinking from the social media thought process to the search engine process or thought process.
Yes.
Because Pinterest is a search engine. And so for those people who are listening, and you may be in this bucket, Jana, who really haven't spent much time on it, I'm just going to back up like 1,000 steps and really quickly remind you or tell you that Pinterest is more like Google than it is like a social media platform. So when you are in Pinterest, you're looking at pictures, but behind every picture, there's a link. So when we search for something on Google, up comes maybe on the first page of Google, there's 16 different entries or something like that. I don't know how many, and there are words there that represent links that we could click on to learn more about that thing we searched for. Now on Pinterest, it's exactly the same way, except instead of seeing words that represent those links, you're seeing pictures that represent those links. So you can search for something and then you can click and move off the platform that is Pinterest over to someone's website. So Pinterest actually is a platform that encourages users to leave the platform and go explore and discover things on the websites of the people who are creating content on Pinterest. So
what a good advantage there. Let's just even stop there for a sec. That's one thing I notice with every other social media platform. It's a nightmare to try and get them to leave it. You post a link on Facebook, doesn't show it to anyone, Instagram, you've got one little link in the, in the bio.
Link in bio.
This platform actually encourages you to say, hey, post your stuff here and we won't punish you for putting a link there. We'll actually encourage people to click from the link there.
That's exactly correct. Right. So there is that big advantage. And there's also an advantage from the perspective of what type of mind frame the pinners are in, because pinners are there it's really me time for them when they're there. They're there to get ideas and inspiration for ways to make their lives better. And the most recent statistics from Omnicore actually say that 98% of Pinterest users report to have tried something that they found on Pinterest, so some kind of idea. And about 83% of them have actually purchased something because of something that they saw on Pinterest. So people are there. So people are there looking for ideas and inspiration and things to try. And it's when you can capture them and use the platform in the way that, kind of utilizes all the best practices, you can take advantage of the fact that people are there looking for things to do. They're not there looking for community. They're not there looking for engagement with people like they are on social media. They're actually looking for things to try and do and buy. So there's a big difference in terms of the intention that people have when they're using the platform as well. And then the last thing I'll say, I'm talking a lot to answer your question, but I just want to also just point out that because Pinterest is a search engine and not social media, you have to take a totally different approach to it when you're marketing there. But one of the great advantages of it is that it is actually much more low maintenance, or much lower maintenance, I suppose I could say, for the coach or the course creator or the service provider who's looking to market there. There's no need to spend time on there engaging. People don't engage on Pinterest. They're not there to build relationships. They're not there to build know, like, and trust. They're there to discover ideas and head over to your website. So on one side of the coin, the great thing about that is you can actually, I teach in my course and I teach my clients how to set up a workflow where you spend 4 to 6 hours per month in one sitting.
So I think you made a mistake. Did you say 4 to 6 hours a day? Is that what you meant to say? Or
I did not. That's how much time we spend on Instagram. So like 4 to 6 hours per month in one sitting, where you can just do you spend half a day basically doing everything you need to do for your Pinterest strategy for the next 30 days. And then you set it and forget it and come back to it again 30 days later and do it again. So you don't need to be there engaging in order to make it work for you. Whereas on social media, you can you can put a ton of great content on there, but unless you're actually spending time engaging with people and building relationships and doing the social things that social media is all about, you're probably not going to gain the kind of traction that you want. Whereas on Pinterest, you don't need to do any of that. So it's quite low maintenance. And when people think, oh gosh, I don't want to add like another social media platform to my list of things to do, I always remind them or let them know that while you do have to do some things to grow and maintain it, and you have to invest some time up front to set it up strategically, for instance, researching keywords to use and things like that, once you've got it set up strategically, it can really hum along and be much, much less high maintenance and really nothing like a strategy in that way. So your original question was what advantages does it have? And those are really the main advantages that I see.
I think you're a good salesperson. I think you've sold me. I think I'm going to jump online and buy this course here. I'll just summarize a few of the.
I just love it. I love the platform, so I get excited about it.
I think you sold me at the 4 to 6 hours per month, because that was my thought. I'm like, come on, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I muck around on LinkedIn, I try YouTube, there's TikTok that's coming up. Why am I going to put more effort into this? But then I'm like, hold on, 4 to 6 4 to 6 hours. And did you say one sitting? So I could just say, hey, one Sunday, I'm going to sit down and sit down and work half a day, and there's my content for the whole month and my strategy for the whole month.
Yeah, okay. Absolutely. Yeah, because nothing on Pinterest needs to be done in real time. And nothing needs to be done, none of that engagement needs to happen. So for that reason, you can just do your work for the month and set it and forget it till the next month.
Yes. I think you're going to have a new course customer in the next couple of days. So, but I'll give some other things as well. That I think is the hottest seller right there. But I took some notes, so I'll just summarize some of these things, make sure I've got them, and make sure that I'm not giving the listeners any wrong information here. To summarize, there's a heap of traffic on Pinterest. Did you say it was the third biggest social media platform in terms of traffic?
It is. And it's actually referring about 5% of all internet traffic now.
Wow. So that's a good reason there, because I'm a big fan of traffic is hard to create, right? I don't want to try and create traffic out of the blue. But if there's people already going to this platform here, hey, let me try and leverage that traffic there. So I think that's really cool. Now, most people that go on Pinterest actually do the thing that you tell them to do. So if it's like, hey, here's a workout or here's a recipe, they'll actually do that thing, and they'll actually buy the thing after that as well. Is that what you were saying there?
Yeah, I think that the mindset of the pinner is they're looking for ideas to try and things to do. Whereas on social media, people are there to be social. And so when you promote something on social media, sometimes it works, but a lot of times people are like, oh gosh, they're promoting that thing. You know what I mean? Whereas on Pinterest, you're actually getting in front of an audience that is actually thirsty and hungry for your ideas.
This is the perfect app for introverts, right? If anyone's listening to this and they're like, I don't want to do a live video. I don't want to, promote to my friends. I don't want to add people I don't know. Pinterest sounds like the perfect platform for these people, right?
It's funny. Yeah. People actually do call it the introverts platform. It's gotten that nickname.
Yeah. Love it. All right, cool. Yeah. So yes, I'm sold on Pinterest anyway. I think I'm going to do your course. Let's say my listeners are now sold on Pinterest as well. Can you give us some tips, Jana? What do we do on there? I logged on the other day. I logged on 10 minutes ago and I'm like, what do I do on this thing now?
Yeah.
Where do we start? What's point? I guess point one is jump on and play around with it. Would you say?
Oh, for sure. I think getting to know how the platform works as a user is always going to be a good idea. So I would say if you're not someone who has already been using Pinterest as a user, it would be good to set aside a little bit of time just to, search some things you're interested in, find out how it works, and just kind of mess around with it.
Can I jump in there for a sec? Just I'll share just what I found from a completely cold person who hasn't logged on for a year and logged on for the first time 10 minutes ago. This is the way I saw it, where I had a feed. I think it was, I must have typed in my interests or something. And, there was a feed up there that I could see, and there was a list of photos. And then I clicked on the photo, and there was like a little description under that photo there. And then there was a link to go to that person's website. Is that essentially the flow? So it's like you've got a photo to catch someone's attention, almost like a YouTube thumbnail, I guess you could say. And then there's like a little caption, which I guess would essentially be a Twitter. What's the word count there? Do you know off the top of your head? Can you have a long one?
Yeah, I believe it's 160 is the actual pin description itself.
Okay.
So it's not that long.
Like a tweet or longer?
Well, I'm not a big Twitter person, but a
Okay.
tweet used to be 140 characters. I don't know if a
Okay.
tweet
So
is
give or
longer
take.
now, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's roughly about that. Yeah.
Okay. And then
Yep.
that caption is like, okay, what can we write in here to get this person to our website?
Yeah, actually, it's interesting. What we have found is that the text overlay on the Pinterest pin itself. So if you have a graphic and then it tells you something about what you're seeing in the graphic with the text overlay, that's typically what people read and what tells them what they'll get or incents them to click through to get that thing, right? Or learn that information or see that thing. And the Pinterest description, the pin description itself, isn't actually very widely read.
Oh,
You do
okay.
want to Yeah, you do want to write something there that would, if someone was reading it, describe
Yeah.
what they would get. But actually, that is the main, from a marketing perspective, the main thing you want to be doing there is making sure that you're writing a keyword-rich description, because that's one of the areas. There are 6 areas on Pinterest where you can add your keywords, and that's one of those 6 areas. So it's important that you include keywords that people might be searching for in that little description there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I'll let you do your thing because
No.
you obviously know a thing or two about this matter. So let's go over. Someone's listening to this, they've downloaded the app, they've had a bit of a play around. Okay, get the idea where it works. What's the first
Yeah.
thing they should do to start growing their list?
Yeah. So I teach a framework where I call my basics the 4 pillars of Pinterest success.
Yes.
And I really believe, especially for coaches and course creators and people, service providers who, we're running our businesses, we're not full-time vloggers, we're not going to be on Pinterest all day, every day. I really believe that paying attention to and making sure you you're really focusing on the basics is where you will win. So I really teach people to really focus in on the foundational things with Pinterest. So the first one is the keywords. And anytime you're working with a search engine like Google or YouTube or Pinterest in this case, the keywords are really, really important. And unfortunately, it's also the part that a lot of people kind of gloss over because it's not really, it's not sexy. It's not fun. You know what I mean? You're like, keywords, right? And then you add research to that, keyword research, and it just sounds even worse, right? I personally love it. Like, I personally find it to be fascinating because behind the keyword research, there's all this psychology, right? But that would be the first thing. And you really want to make a list of things you think your people might be searching. Make sure that those things are not like the jargon that you use, but actually the things that people use, your people use when they're using their vernacular, if you will, the words they use when they ask you questions. And then actually do some research to find out if those things are being searched on Pinterest. And then once you've determined that, you actually can add those keywords that you decide are going to be your important keywords to those 6 areas of your profile. So that's really the first thing that I teach people how to do. And it's really important not to skip it because you can do everything else right. And if you don't really pay enough attention to the keyword piece of things, the rest of the strategy will kind of like womp womp on you.
Yes.
So
Well, it's
really
similar.
important.
I see more and more correlations to Google here, where it's like, okay, if you want to appear number 1 on Google, and I guess YouTube as well, hey, you need to have these keywords right. You need to know what people are searching. You need to know there's traffic going there. Now, I'll ask a couple questions here. I don't know if there's an answer or not. The strategy I like to use on both Google and YouTube is I use keywords everywhere. And I'm like, do you know that tool, keywords everywhere?
I do. Yep.
And I'm like,
familiar with it.
Awesome. So I'm like, okay, what words are getting a lot of traffic? Because before I knew that, I worked with an SEO agency and I was like, yeah, here are the 10 words, that people are going to search, and just gave it to them. And it's funny, I gave it to them and within a few months, they're like, yeah, you're now ranked number 1 on all these keywords. And then I got a bit better with marketing and business, and I realized the tool keywords everywhere. And then I was like, hold on. 4 of these words I've given them has like 0 search volume. So it's all well, it's all well and good for me to re-rank number 1, but if there's no search volume, it's a waste of time. So I use it for that. And then I also listen to, do you know who Sunny Lenarduzzi is?
I do. Yes. I've taken her course. Yep.
Me too. So you probably know her YouTube strategy where she's like, hey, you need volume, because you've got to people search it. But if it's too if you type in fitness as your keyword, good luck on YouTube. You're just not going to be there.
No one's going to get to your stuff.
Yeah. So do you know any tools or even, I guess there's things like Instagram you can type in the hashtag and see,
Get that right, the volume.
and you can sort of be like, let me pick one that's in the middle, it's not too competitive, but there's stuff.
Right.
Are there any strategies or tools or tips you can give us there on Pinterest?
Yeah. So the thing that's interesting about Pinterest is that as of now, Pinterest has not created, nor have they given their API, if that makes sense. I'm not a developer, but that's my basic understanding of how it works, to any third party to create any kind of research tool, third-party research tool.
Yep.
And by the way, just as an aside, there are people out there who sell a Pinterest research tool, and it's not something you should buy because you can't do anything with it that you can't do with Pinterest itself. So don't invest in something like that, just as an aside. Whereas Keywords Everywhere is a great tool and totally worth the investment if you're, doing like a YouTube strategy for sure. So on Pinterest, it's a little bit, there aren't really good ways to see the quantitative, numbers when it comes to that. So you have to take a little bit more of an intuitive approach. And you take the keywords that you think people might be looking for and you pop them in and you see what comes up and you see what's coming up in predictive text and that kind of thing. But you're not going to get there isn't going to be a third party tool or even an in Pinterest tool like there is in Instagram to actually show you the search volume. So the approach I take to it is more about making sure that you're going general enough with your search terms, that you're going to sort of cast your net wide enough, but specific enough that the people you're going to catch in that net, that's not a very good analogy, but are going to be ideal clients for you, are going to actually be people who would be interested in what you teach and interested in the solutions that you provide. But unfortunately, there isn't yet any kind of third-party tool. I would love it if there would be one at some point.
Well, I think there's an advantage, disadvantage. The advantage is it would make it so much easier, but the disadvantage is if it was easier, then everyone would just freaking do it. At least now, if you can get a little bit clever, and use some of your strategies, I'm sure you cover in the course, use some other, it probably correlates somewhat anyway, right? You jump on keywords everywhere. If there's a lot of traffic there, if there's a lot of traffic on Instagram, there may be some sort of correlate. You can do some, type it in Pinterest, see what other people are using. So I guess there's a bit of fun there as well.
Yeah, you can kind of play between the different platforms. There is a little bit of a difference with the kinds of things people search on Pinterest than what the kinds of things are that they search on other platforms. But generally, if you start with a list of keywords that you already have researched for Google, and then you research those in the Pinterest app, that's a great head start.
Awesome. Okay. Makes sense. And so there's 6 places we can put them. I'm guessing we just put them every single place there's an opportunity, right? We put it in our profile, we put it in the description, we put it, is that just wherever you can slide them in, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I do have a little free resource on my website, one of those many freebies that you mentioned earlier, that you can grab. It's actually, it's Jana O Media /Pinterest keywords. And it gives you swipe copy for the 6 different areas. So it kind of helps you kind of know what the best ways to use the keywords are in different areas, because there are certain areas where you can kind of, I hate to use the term keyword stuff, but you can do that a little bit and get away with it. And then there's other areas where you definitely wouldn't want to do that. So there's different kind of best practices for those different 6 areas. But generally speaking, you're right. You're basically taking those keywords and you're getting as much mileage as you can from them by adding them to all the places on Pinterest. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, cool. Yeah. So keyword research and then throw them in there. That's our first step. What's number 2?
Yeah. Visuals is the second platform. Okay. So this one is probably going to be the easiest one for people who already have a successful social media strategy to implement. Because although there are some things that are specific to Pinterest and things that work really well on Pinterest that might be different than what works on other platforms, there definitely are. But generally speaking, the basics when it comes to messaging and being able to understand what it takes for your Pinterest pins to be able to do 2 things. Number 1, stop the scroll, because it's got to grab that person's attention, right? And get them to pay attention. And then number 2, to convert them to do the next thing you want them to do, which is click through to your website. So you basically, you want to learn the best practices for Pinterest when it comes to visuals and create pins that are going to stop the scroll and get people to do what you want them to do. So that's going to be the second pillar of success, would be the visuals.
So let's take a second here. So I'm just thinking of myself now and how I can convert this so I can get it around my head and then share with the listeners. So okay, where to start on this one? Visuals. Okay. So actually, maybe let's go back a step and talk about the actual Pinterest process. So I think, and this is just my just from me logging on once a year, this is what I sort of see on Pinterest. So
Yep.
when I used to do fitness stuff, when I used to be a personal trainer, run a boot camp, I would log
Yep.
on Pinterest every now and then to get like just a simple workout. There'd be a
Yeah.
photo there, which is, hey, here's a 20-minute workout, 20 squats, 20 lunges, 20 bridges,
Yeah.
20 push-ups, whatever, right? And I could
Yep.
just look at that. Great. Hey, post it on my Facebook group. Hey,
Yep.
people, here's a workout you can do at home today, yada, yada,
Yep.
yada.
Yep.
Now, I get the impression that's changed a little bit now, where maybe that one would still work as an example, but you can go further where it may just be a headline, top 10
Mm-hmm.
exercise ideas, maybe is what the
Yep.
photo is, and it looks attractive or whatever. And then
Yep.
for someone to get those ideas, they would click and go to the website. Has it
Right.
changed like that at all, or am I just completely wrong, or what can you tell us
No,
there?
no. Yeah, no, you're remembering really correctly for sure. And I think that that's a great example of the kind of thing where you need to be intentional. If your goal is to get traffic to your website, then you
Yeah.
don't want to give away all of the information on the pin itself.
Yeah.
And so that's a great example in the fitness arena.
Yeah.
If you were a food blogger, you wouldn't necessarily want to have the Pinterest pin itself have all the instructions and all the ingredients right on the pin
Yeah.
itself, right? If you are a coach or a course creator, yeah, maybe you want to say, I'm going to teach you the top 5 ways that you can XYZ.
Yeah.
And then you maybe have a little call to action button that says, get the full list here.
Yeah.
So you definitely want to be thinking about that psychology around getting people over to Pinterest. Same thing with a lot of people tend to, this is a great example of like trying to use Pinterest like social media.
Mm.
If you do what you do on Instagram and you post a great quote like that awesome James Clear quote that I just mentioned earlier, right? With my little logo in the bottom for brand lift. No one's going to click through that to my website,
Yeah.
right? Because there isn't really much incentive to do that. They might
Yeah.
save that quote to their board, and that might help me a little bit. But if my goal is to get traffic to my website, then I should be investing my time in creating graphics that are going to not only stop the scroll, but also convert over to my website.
Okay.
So yeah, no, that's a really good insight that you just threw out there, that just from the user's perspective.
Awesome. Okay. Well, hey, I'll now ask okay, so I'll share a strategy I use on 2 different businesses.
Mm-hmm.
One way I do it on Instagram with my fitness education business. One I do
Yep.
it on Facebook with like an online course business. So it's essentially the free mini course strategy, right?
Yeah.
Hey, here's this thing. It's a free mini course. Click below or comment below and you get a copy of the free mini course, and whether it's a DM or a link or whatever it may be, that person then, enters their details. They get the course sent to them, yada, yada, yada.
Yep.
Now on Instagram, on my fitness business, it's with a video, right? It's a video of, let's just say it's a boxing mini course, for example. It's a video of, a couple people boxing, a workout, maybe the description in the bio as well. And then on that video, it's got, hey, boxing workouts mini course, comment below to get a free copy. Would something similar to that, you obviously can't do a video, well, I'm guessing you can't do a video on Pinterest, but would something, or you can do a video on Pinterest? You can, okay. Well, let's go both ways, right? Let's say, is that the sort of strategy that could work, where it's like, hey, here's sample boxing workout, blah, 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 blah. Or not even, could it even just be as simple as, hey, do you want boxing workouts? I've got a free mini course, click below to get it. Can it be that simple, or what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, no, I mean, it can be that simple. So just like with any kind of funnel, and whether or not people like the word funnel or customer journey, it can be as simple or as complex you need it to be to get done what you want to get done into goals. And there's lots of different goals with Pinterest, and there's lots of different goals with people's funnels. I will say that Pinterest, my number one most favorite way to help clients with Pinterest is to basically make Pinterest be an extension of their existing converting funnel. So if you know where you want to drive your traffic to, if you know when you pin where you want people to land on your website and what you want them to do next, that's going to help you make that decision about what your pin should and shouldn't have on it, right? How much information it's going to have, what format you want to use to create that free thing. But it's my very favorite strategy to use Pinterest to grow your email list with a really good lead magnet that's well aligned. So it's definitely a really good instinct. And if you have a great lead magnet, that's something you definitely want to be promoting on Pinterest. And honestly, if you have a great lead magnet and it's converting for you, it's actually kind of a shame to not be using Pinterest, because you could be getting a lot of really good automated traffic over to that, to that entry point, that funnel entry point. So yeah, no, it can be that simple. It can be as simple as a simple static pin. You could go video pin if you want to.
Yep.
if that's going to work for your niche, and it might work really well for your niche,
Mm.
but or for the niche you were just talking about.
Yep.
But it could be as simple as that static pin, just dangling that freebie and making it just irresistible and getting people over there, so that
Love it.
when they land there, what they're going to grab that freebie. So, for
Okay,
sure.
so let me summarize that step there. It's almost working backwards. It's like, all right, right.
Yeah.
What's my goal? My goal is to build my list. Okay, how do I build my list? It's having this lead magnet there. Okay, cool. I got to get people to go to this lead magnet. Okay, what
Yeah.
sort of visuals are going to work there? Let me try a few as well, right? Let me try a
Yeah.
video one. Let me try a photo one. Let me,
Yeah.
try one that just says here's the freebie. Let me try one
Yeah.
that gives a bit of value and then a little click below the bottom, and
Yes.
let's see what
Yes.
works best, and go from there, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because different things work for different accounts and in different niches. So absolutely.
Awesome.
You
All
got
right.
it.
Cool. So I'm with you. So we've done our
Yeah.
keyword research now. We know what we need to
Yeah.
have there. We know what
Yeah.
our outcome is. We know we now need to create visuals to get people there. What's
Yeah.
the next step, Jana?
So the other two pillars that I talk about in my framework essentially are consistency and
Mm,
time. So those things really kind of go hand in hand.
mm,
Pinterest is a little bit of a slow burn. It takes a little longer to gain
mm.
traction than other platforms, if you will.
Yep.
It's a lot more like YouTube in that way,
Yep.
in the sense that there's like an inverse relationship between the amount of effort you have to put into it in the beginning and the results that you get.
Yep.
But the awesome thing about that is that if you are consistent and you put that workflow into place and you follow that workflow, just like James Clear says, follow that process to get the progress. If you follow that workflow over time, it becomes easier to manage and your results start to snowball. So it gets really exciting because over time you have to do less and less to maintain and grow it. And meanwhile, your results are getting better and better over time. So it's
You've
kind of like you're
sold me.
building equity in something. Yeah,
You've
it's pretty
sold me
amazing.
again.
I'm in love with the platform, of course, and the results that my clients and students get from it. So,
Awesome.
yeah, so that would be that's the last piece of it really, is putting a workflow into place and then
Mm.
just following it and being patient and trusting in the process.
Yes, I love that for a
Yeah.
few different reasons. I love consistency because that's like
Mhm.
anything, right? No matter what you like, go to the gym once. Yeah, good luck, having the body you want,
Right.
right? Go
Right.
every now and
Yeah.
then or when you feel like it. Go,
Right.
once a week this week and then 5 times next week and then skip a week and then it's not going to work, right? Like
Right.
anything in life, it's got to be consistency
Right.
and slow burn, okay? It's not like you're going to do it today and get a whole heap of traffic tomorrow.
Right. Nope.
And but once again, right, anyone that sort of sells you that dream is probably lying to you anyway, right? No matter what they're trying to do. There's obviously things that are
Yeah.
going to work a bit quicker than others.
Yeah.
But really, like anything in life,
Yeah.
it's like, all right, cool. Let me plant the seed now. And there's actually a good message, I think, for any course creator. Like if you're listening to this now and you're like, oh, it's a slow burn. No, I need to make 100 sales next week. You probably should have thought of that 3 months ago, right? So my
Yeah.
advice to that sort of
Yeah.
person would be like, hey, maybe skip that dream, maybe, drive Uber for the next couple months or whatever for some cash flow,
Yeah.
but do this stuff now so that
Right.
in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, whatever it be, now you've got things going in. So
Right.
thank you for
Yeah.
bringing that up. Now,
Yeah.
Janet, there's a few questions I always like to finish my podcast off with. One of them
Mhm.
is around mentors and books. Now, you've already dropped one book there, The Atomic Habits. Did you
Yeah.
have maybe another book or two that you could recommend for any aspiring course
Mm.
creators? And it can be anything. It doesn't have to be a book on, how to sell more
Yeah.
courses, whether it's marketing, sales, mindset, time management,
Yeah.
motivation. What are some books that have helped you on your career?
Well, there's another book that I really like a lot too, and it's kind of along the same, vein as the James Clear concepts, but it's a book called Essentialism by Greg McGowan. I don't know if
Oh,
you've ever heard of
okay.
that one.
I
So it's
yeah.
Greg, and then his last name is McGowan, but it's MCK, I think it is, EOWN, I believe is how it's spelled. And Essentialism is the name of the book, and it talks a little bit about basically going all in,
Mm,
on the one thing that you are all about, right? Committing to one thing and just going deep on it instead of wide and not spreading yourself too thin. And I love that book. So that's a really good one. And then,
yes.
I've had a lot of really amazing, mentors that I've learned from over the years. The client, honestly, that I mentioned toward the beginning of our podcast is someone that I've learned so much from over the years. Her name, I don't know if you've ever heard of her, but her name is Kay Putnam. And she is the psychology-driven brand strategist. She's at kayputnam.com, Kaye, putnam.com. And she teaches all about brand strategy that's based on being true to yourself. And rather than sort of obsessing over the idea of like that ideal client avatar, kind of turning it on its head, excuse me, and starting from a place of what are my innate advantages? You know, what am I the best at? And I think as course creators, we tend to, it's important for us to, because there are, generally speaking, not in every niche, but in most niches, there are a lot of people teaching what you teach.
Yeah.
But the reason why people invest in your course is because you are you, and there's no one else that can be as you-y as you, you know? So that is something that I've always been inspired by what she teaches about and creates, because I think it applies in that way to us as course creators and just as entrepreneurs and infopreneurs as well. So I'd say those are two people, one that I personally know and one that I don't, that have inspired me.
Yes, love it. And I'll even just spend a minute or two expanding on those topics there. So the essentialism was the one about going deep into the one thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'll even give just an example here. The reason why I connected with Jana in the first place, and the reason why I've got on this podcast, is because she's the master at one thing, Pinterest. There's a million different people on Facebook and Instagram. Hey, I'm a marketer this, and I'll do this, and this. It's not that attractive. I mean, they may be good at what they do, don't get me wrong, but there's an advantage where it's like, hey, I'm the best at this one thing. If you want to learn this one thing, come to me. So I think that's really, really cool there.
Interesting.
And then, yes, on the second note there, we're focusing on your strengths as well, because there's obviously a lot of people that do what you do. And it's going to be hard. The way I look at it anyway is it's going to be hard to beat other people at their own game. All right.
Yeah.
And another way to even put it is, if you've obviously got to do the work on your ideal customer. I think that I'm a huge fan of that as well. The flip side to that is that it's got to be a fit both ways. My take on it is, let's just use me and you as an example. Let's say, whatever, you're in my ideal client, you're the age, you're the gender, you're the, occupation, whatever it may be. But if my style doesn't sort of fit with you, then it's not going to be a good experience, because you're not going to like the course or the program. And if I have to cater it so that I'm not me and you, I'm not going to enjoy it. All right. But if we can have a fit the other way, and it's like, hey, here's what I do. Here's the way I like to do it. If this is the way you like to do it as well, great. We're going to be an awesome fit, and both of us are going to have an awesome time and go from there. So I think that's an important point there. Okay. Now from there, Jana, do you want to let us know a little bit about what the next step is for you? Someone's listening to this and they're like, all right, great. I definitely want to go on Pinterest, but man, I can't do this on my own. It's too much work, or I don't want to do the research myself. Is there a shortcut where I can do a course, or, watch a webinar and I can get started here, or follow someone on social media? Let us know all about that side of things.
Yeah, sure. I think that if someone is listening and they're brand new to the idea of using Pinterest for business, using Pinterest rather than just for fun, but setting it up strategically so that you can grow your email list on autopilot, sell more courses with it, I would say a really good place to start would be my free masterclass. It teaches you the 5 secrets. It's my 5 best secrets about how to get clients and how to grow your audience on autopilot using Pinterest. And you can get that by going to my website, and it's right in the navigation bar. It says free class, but you can also go to the link that'll be in your show notes to access it too. And I think that that's a great way to quickly get up to speed on those 5 things that you need to know, so that you'll be approaching Pinterest in the right way and not make the kinds of mistakes that people do make when they're trying to approach it like social media, if they've had success on social media before and kind of want to try to replicate that on Pinterest. So that's where I would start if you're brand new to the idea of using it strategically for business.
Awesome. And if someone's like, all right, hey, I just think Jana's cool, I want to follow her and see what she's up to. What's your best social media platform? Facebook, Instagram?
Yeah. So for social media, I love being on Facebook. I just really enjoy all the interactions and helping people, answering questions, giving my feedback on things. So you can find me. I'm the only Jana Osofsky out there on Facebook for sure. So you can find me there, or you can go to my page, which is facebook.com/Jana O Media, I think. That's my handle there. So yeah, that would be a great place to connect with me. And I always happy to get DMs from people about, their basic questions too. So people can always message me there.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
hey, Jana, that's pretty much all I wanted to get through today. Is there
Cool.
anything I should have asked but didn't or forgot to, or is there anything you want to finish us off with?
I don't think so. I think that that's we covered a whole lot of stuff, which is great, and you had such great questions. And I think I'm hoping that people who are listening are really thinking of Pinterest in a totally different way now. I think we helped them do that. So,
Awesome. Well, hey,
yeah,
Jana, thanks very much for your time.
thank you.